Hey yo, you ever rode in a rose with a rose on, thinking about your next album? Yeah, me too. Boo, 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 boo. Hey yo, you ever thought about your next album and put Maduro on your cover? Yeah, me too.
All right, let me stop my Westside Gunn impression. Just know that Westside Gunn just teased potentially his next album, and I'm here to say, yes, he picked another controversial figure in world history, but look, in the name of hip-hop, in the name of high art, that's actually on par and on brand for Westside Gunn and hip-hop as a whole. And so in this video, I'm gonna break down why Westside Gunn is actually one of the better tastemakers that hip-hop has to offer, with his latest example of picking Nicolás Maduro, who was just abducted from Venezuela. By the way, guys, my name is Uche, and I make videos like this every single week, or at least I'm planning to. So if you enjoy videos like this, hit that like button, that hype button, and run this up for me. Make sure you hit me in the comments telling me what you want me to discuss next as well. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see me grow, and also follow me on the socials at UCHAYVA to keep up with everything that I typically rant about. All right, guys, now let's get into this. Okay. Let's jump it right into this and not waste no time on this topic. Look, hip-hop is arguably the only genre where music is the frame and the culture is the canvas. Now, think of it like a gallery. While other genres focus on the song, I think hip-hop creates an entire ecosystem of fashion, politics, visual art, and just overall storytelling that a lot of genres outside of hip-hop/rap don't really encompass in a way. And so it's like the modern day Renaissance, taking the rawest parts of the street and presenting it in a prestigious museum in a way. Now, that brings me to the now famous Instagram post that Westside Gunn put up on his social media, specifically his Instagram story, that pretty much stopped the internet if you're a rap fan, and it made people be like, all right, he's at it again. He's at it again, guys. And look, Westside Gunn teased an image of the Venezuelan president, or I guess former Venezuelan president at this point, Nicolás Maduro, in a gray Nike Tech suit with chains on, looking like a member of the new GTA series, and some of the coolest artwork I've seen in a little minute. Now, I guess we gotta thank Trump because he did release that to the public, but I digress. To me, it's the ultimate Griselda aesthetic, right? A world-class villain styled in street luxury. Now, to me, this signals a new era for Gunn, and who knows? I mean, his new album could potentially be called Maduro, or maybe The Dictator, or how about maybe Pray for Venezuela? I think that would actually hit, guys. I ain't gonna lie to you. That sounds fire. And look, at the end of the day, Westside Gunn is famously quoted as saying, I just dropped to keep reminding people it's not a game and that this is legendary. I think he's right, guys. Like, at the end of the day, Westside Gunn is one of them dudes that really curates his vibe, curates his art in a way that I think a lot of artists don't necessarily do. Now, while most people can laugh at his rapping, they can say he's not that great, say whatever you want. I think he shows that art and music is all about presentation, and he's one of the guys, to me, that's leading that element when it comes to hip hop. Okay, now let's talk about how Westside Gunn strategically uses the villain arc to kind of mold and shape his projects. And so, in my opinion, I feel like he typically uses the villain, or at least who the world perceives as a villain, to represent the grimiest elements of life, where it meets kind of like the flyest elements of art. So that sort of juxtaposition in a way. And so before we get into that a little bit more, we got to talk about how in 2025, bro was dropping crazy amounts of projects and singles. Most notably, he dropped 12, Hills Have Eyes, Hills Have Eyes 2, Hills Have Eyes 3, and so many more that I know if you're a Gunn fan, you already know, but if you're not, please go tap into his music. He's independent, and he could probably use some streams and some vinyl sales. Listen, we all can. Shout out to Gunn. He does not skimp his fans on content, and he needs to be saluted for that, in my opinion. But I think without getting into all of his projects, I just want to highlight a few that, to me, he paints that villain arc and uses it in a super creative way the best. And we gotta start with the Hitler Wears Hermes series, which again has about 10 projects, but it was pretty much released from 2012 to 2022, where the figure is Adolf Hitler. Now, listen, don't get your panties in a bunch. I ain't here condoning nothing. Remember, I'm just highlighting the fact that Gunn uses art to paint his pictures. And to me, he's already talked about how Hitler is sort of substituted for that devil piece in the Devil Wears Prada movie, where he's like the ultimate devil figure. But again, you juxtapose that when it comes to high art, and Hermes is sort of the instrument tool he used on this one. Now look, there weren't any crazy Billboard numbers when it comes to any of his projects, and I'm not even really here to highlight any of that, but Hitler Wears Hermes 10 did peak at number 49 on the Billboard 200 charts. So, I mean, you could argue that's maybe his most noteworthy, at least from a commercial perspective in that series. But secondly, I want to talk about his Supreme Blientele album, in which he highlighted Chris Benoit as his quote-unquote villain. Now, if y'all are wrestling heads like me from back in the day, y'all know Chris Benoit. He's a notorious heel within the wrestling community and history books, if you will, but he notoriously had a murder-suicide that sort of turned him into a devil, if you will, and that was on the cover of that album. And, you know, I think he was kind of representing the fact that here's this hero turned monster, and that third eye that was on his head kind of shows that darkness and greatness in a simultaneous way, where in a way art makes you uncomfortable. You know, I think that's one of the best examples. And so this project actually peaked at numbers 26 on the independent charts, which is a pretty dope feat for, again, Westside Gunn. He's one of them dudes that's gonna keep putting out music in a creative way. Next, I wanna talk about Pray for Paris, which dropped April 2020. And the figure for this particular project is Caravaggio's David with the head of Goliath, which was originally designed by Virgil Abloh, where he added actual gold chains on the decapitated Renaissance head, showing the Buffalo Street Kid taking over the art world in a sort of Goliath manner. So you could salute his artistry, or you could say bro is just regurgitating things from the past, but to me, that's art. And this one actually peaked at number 67 on the Billboard 200 charts. And some of the notable songs on this project are 327, George Bondo, and 500 Ounces. Next, I do want to talk about this Heels Have Eyes series, which again, I talked about. He had a crazy run in 2025, and this one was no different. And to me, this one painted various heels, right? Heels meaning the villain. And he used wrestlers like Mankind and Tito Santana to kind of paint that villain perspective, where in wrestling, the heel is someone that you once loved, but you kind of hate at the exact same time. And I think that tracks. It connects to the Maduro teaser, because Maduro is ultimately a political figure that is and has become a heel in the world stage right now. And so again, shout out to Westside Gunn. He's continuing to do it. He's continuously making waves, I think, in the art world. And again, there's so many other examples of how he's used the heel to kind of paint a story with his hip hop twist when it comes to fashion, art, and all of the other stuff. So I think it's super interesting what Westside Gunn is doing. And lastly, here's the reality. Mainstream awards ignore Westside Gunn. Mainstream news, mainstream outlets, they typically don't cover him. But the titan in hip hop, the people that the fans consider big dogs, they don't ignore him at all. And some notable examples of that would be, for example, Tyler, the Creator, who credited Gunn for making him want to rap again, where he said, and I quote, "To Westside Gunn for making me just rap again. I love it." That's dope.
Now, is it true that Westside Gunn kind of inspired you to start rapping again?
Dude. I love Westside Gunn. I love what Griselda's doing, but man, that man's ears for beats and just the way that he describes things, the adjectives, and just his voice, it's so grating. It's like a cartoon. Yeah. I love it.
Tyler's having a moment these days, and it's cool to see the people who this generation are looking up to put such a highlight on what Westside Gunn is doing in hip hop in a very inconspicuous, undercover way. I think that's fire. Another person that has kind of given props out loud and even behind the scenes is Drake. Oh, he's been a vocal supporter and has sampled Gunn's ad-libs, and he regularly hires Westside Gunn's primary producer, Conductor Williams, to make several rap songs for him over the years. And so Westside Gunn came out after a lot of that and said, and I quote, "I like when somebody confident enough to give somebody their flowers." Drake did it and he didn't have to. Also, let's talk about Eminem, who actually signed Griselda to Shady Records early on. And I know since they've kind of gone their separate ways, which happens in music, people go their separate ways. Not sure if there's beef or not, and it don't really have to be. But Eminem was actually quoted as saying, "The style and energy of Griselda is infectious." And so look, There's a ton of other people who've quoted Gunn, who sampled him, who have taken his influence, have taken his aesthetic and ran with it while also paying homage. But here's the takeaway for me, guys. I think Westside Gunn is a master curator who blends wrestling, fashion, and raw boom bap in a way that not a lot of people are actually doing within rap these days. And so when we look to the future, with the Maduro era coming, I think he's about to remind us why he's one of the most daring tastemakers in hip-hop and that hip-hop has to offer. But what do you guys think? Do you think Westside Gunn is one of the better tastemakers and curators that hip-hop has to offer? Or do you feel like he's clout chasing in this situation and piggybacking off this unfortunate geopolitical situation going on in Venezuela in the US? Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, my name is Uche. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.